Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey, beautiful souls. Thanks for tuning in to Willow Healing Matters. Before you go any further, if you're someone that loves stories, loves getting involved in the deepness and wants to reflect and talk to somebody and be part of a community where you can dive deeper into books, why not come and check out my book obsession, where you'll get sneak previews to chapters of my upcoming books, as well as reflection posts so that you can go deeper into the novel. Because it is not the beginning of a story, it is where the story begins within you. So if you'd like to know more, check out mybookobsession.substack.com. And you can check out even some early chapters from my virtual obsession, which is out in stores now. So if you'd like to find out more, again, it's mybookobsession.substack.com. And enjoy the upcoming show. We have a beautiful guest ready and willing to share their experience with all of us. Hey everybody, it's Catherine Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by the lovely Samantha Wittenberg. So she is a spiritual seeker and speaker who works with carers of children with neurodivergent backgrounds. So a big welcome to the show, Samantha.
Thank you, Catherine.
So I guess my first question is, and what we always love to hear on this show, is how you ended up doing what you're doing, like supporting carers who have children with neurodivergent backgrounds. And I know this is a passion of mine we often talk about because my background as a speech language pathologist acknowledges how much parents can end up in burnout. But how did you come to being this role in your life?
Thanks. I had a daughter 28 years ago, and when she became a teenager, she suddenly became violently possessive and jealous of me. And this behavior just completely took me by surprise. I had barely even heard of the word autism. And all of a sudden, my life turned into what I'd only seen on soap operas. And I just didn't know what the hell was going on. And so, yeah, for many years, I struggled to try to work out what was going on. She was diagnosed when she was 20, had just come to Australia then. And I was brand new in the country, now had a child with a disability diagnosis, and I was navigating the systems and in Australia with absolutely, well, almost no support. I'd come here with just a suitcase and a credit card debt. That was it. And my daughter had been here already for a few years, but I had to start from the ground up to figure out how to support her, but also how to support myself. I was in a state of constant hypervigilance, trying to figure out what was going on. And instinctively, I knew I had to set up as much support as possible. So I tried different ways of support. Ultimately, we set up a more structured kind of circle of support for my daughter. But yeah, I realized that having peers support other people who were going through similar things was really important. And also people who understood what I was going through. I was just constantly seeking people with lived experience, just like trying to make sense of my experience and trying to, I guess a lot of the feedback I get from carers is how gratifying it is to hear that other people have similar stories, because especially with neurodivergent children, you can feel very isolated and alone because a number of reasons, but one is that the children themselves don't really want to go out a lot. So you end up being at home, and you obviously, when they're younger, you've got to be keeping an eye on them and you've got to be around. Also, some of the behaviors can cause people to feel a lot of shame and guilt, and so that also keeps them isolated. So I wanted to support people who had gone through similar experience to me and create community and start to really, research what the best tools are to come out of that, the isolation, the anxiety, the burnout, just feeling broken, feeling alone, and feeling like you can never do enough for your child. So yeah, that's what I am helping people with.
Yeah, and I definitely resonate with that, even though I don't have a child with neurodivergent background. At the same time, being a mom can be really challenging. Sometimes it's nice to know, like you said, that you have other people that you're talking with, but then when you add in the other difficulties, I remember years ago when I'd first started working, this poor mum, she was leaving our clinic, and her child had this meltdown, didn't want to get in the car, was hiding behind a pot plant that was in the hallway. And everyone stopped to tell them their 5 cents. Like everybody, like no one
Yeah.
actually provided a solution, but they all gave their input and their take on the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked past her to go to the bathroom, and I walked back, and he looked at me, and I said, "Hey, do you want to come with me?" And I just picked him up because the mum knew me. It wasn't my client at the time. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
she was just, thank you. She goes, he wouldn't go near her, but he was okay with me because he knew me, and I was a different friendly face. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's so interesting not to go into that judgment. Even when you hear the children having meltdowns at the shopping center, that's another one a lot of my clients' parents would say, they just throw themselves on the floor, and then what do you do? Especially when they
Mm-hmm.
get
Mm-hmm.
really big.
Yeah.
I love that you've created this space, but where people can come and feel safe to share those stories. And like you said, it's that there's not just me and not so much that exclusivity, rather, it's actually there are other people like me, and maybe we can support each other, at least share and get what's going on in our world that other people who aren't going through it would understand.
Yes, yes. And, for people listening that don't have neurodivergent children, this is a really important aspect of my work as well. And when I do talks, it's about how to support those, like you did, how to support those people who are carers or are neurodivergent, how to create environments where they can be included, where their nervous systems can be more
Regulated.
calm,
Yeah.
regulated. So, because one of the main causes of autistic burnout is the lack of awareness and acceptance in the society around. And it's changing. It's a two-way, it does require two-way effort, though. It requires neurotypical people who are not neurodivergent, to be more understanding and to be kind of aware and educated. And it also requires the neurodivergent people to advocate more for themselves and to educate people as to what they need. And this is really starting to happen. And one story that just stood out for me was a man I heard giving a talk. He was in quite a senior position in a corporation or company organization, and he actually would give new employees a page which described his preferences and what he needed, like in terms of the sensory impacts, particularly because he said, if you come into my office and you're wearing perfume, I am going to want you out of there as soon as possible. So I'm going to be really rude with you. So yeah, just, informing people things that they may just take for granted and not think about. Making it really explicit is important.
Yeah. And I remember there's a person, I don't know if she's still around, when I started working a lot more in this field, called Sulaki. And she created this kind of template
Yes.
that you could give, children could take to the next teacher. And it said, hey, these are my likes, these are my dislikes, this is what really triggers me, this is how you can support me in those settings. And I know sometimes that information gets lost between transitions between grades, and it's not enough to assume as a parent that it's going to be transferred. Sometimes you just need to
Yes.
reiterate that. And this sheet was just so simple, but yet so brilliant. And a lot of the times I would do it with my older clients, and we'd actually sit there and fill it in together, because then it helps them reflect on themselves and then, like you said, learn to advocate for their needs and share what they need in the
Hmm.
world rather
Hmm.
than waiting for someone else to tell them.
Expecting people
Yeah.
to know that, yeah, this or that's going to really trigger them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And what have you found has been one of the most supportive or aspects of bringing people together who need that support, especially carers and parents or people with neurodivergent backgrounds?
Well, something that I use a lot is empathy. And I know it's a big, buzzword. It's become a bit of a cliche, but really it to me is the key to everything. And like you said, everybody was giving their 2 cents worth, their advice. So and she wouldn't have been in a state to want to take that in at that point. She was probably in the fight flight mode, which usually happens in a meltdown situation, especially in public. Would have been struggling to regulate herself. And a lot of these parents and carers are in a sort of chronically dysregulated. Empathy, for me personally, has been one of the most powerful, quickest ways for me to regulate myself. And it's you can give yourself empathy. I don't find that as it's not as quick or as easy necessarily, but speaking to someone who is regulated as and feels like a safe person to you, and having them just reflect back to you. So they're not giving you advice, they're not judging you, they're just saying, yeah, hey, I can see that you are feeling really anxious right now, or you're feeling really frustrated now, and I wonder if you needing some, whatever it is, some reassurance, really needing to be heard. Really, are you needing to know that you really matter and your needs matter, or whatever it is that's happening? They're reflecting that and guessing and just giving you that accompaniment where you feel you're not alone, and you also feel like whatever's happening to you right now, it actually makes sense to at least one other person. So your body can then relax, and also, yeah, you're not alone in it. So the body feels safer and can start to relax. And then once that happens, your cognitive brain can be accessed then, and then you can start to think of solutions or what to do next. So
Yeah.
the question, yeah, was, I think that's one of the most powerful things, and we do that in my groups. We do, partner empathy or in a group.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing to learn for anybody, at any stage.
Yes, and it does need to be learned because it's not our normal way of responding. When someone's in a very dysregulated state, we tend, especially our children, then we tend to get dysregulated ourselves. Whereas with empathy, we're practicing staying with ourselves as the listener. I don't need to fix it. I just need to be fully present and listening and be curious. That's a really important aspect of it. Be curious about what's happening in this other person. What's happening? What are they feeling? What do they need? And just accompany them. But stay in. So some people say, sympathy is when you start to get your emotions start to get activated by the other person and you sort of get stuck into their world. So if you think of the two people here, so you want to come towards that person, but you don't want to be
In there.
in their energy. Exactly. Yeah. You want to be sort of partly in your own energy and partly with them. So Yeah, we practice that. And it's also, it's a way to practice mindfulness because being fully present means you're not thinking about the past and you're not thinking about the future. You're just present with this person. So there's a whole lot of aspects to learn to kind of do empathy.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the curiosity part too, Samantha, because a show I like called Ted Lasso, he actually says, "Be curious, not judgmental." And if we all took that standpoint rather than sitting there and judging something that's happening and be curious and looking for the why, or just, taking a moment, like you said, to step back and go, okay, what does that person possibly need in that moment? Not judging or just how can I support them, it'd be a very different world, right? Rather than sitting there and criticizing or judging or putting your 2 cents in, but actually not providing any support to help that person through empathy, like you said.
Yes, and then what helps us to be in curiosity, right? We can't be curious when we're in fight or flight. When we're dysregulated, we're not curious. We just want to survive. And that's when we make those judgments like this is bad, this is good, this is right, this is wrong, because, the brain's just all about survival. And I mean, they may be completely inaccurate, the what feels safe, what feels unsafe, which is why self-empathy comes first. So it's very hard to give someone else empathy unless you're regulated, unless you have had enough empathy. Like that's the cup of, filling your cup up. So as carers or parents particularly, we need to be regularly filling ourselves up with empathy. Otherwise, we can't give it to our children or to anyone.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, exactly. And, this is a thing that parents, whether you have children with neurodivergent backgrounds or not, we always put ourselves last, especially as mums. It's been this societal conditioning and this cultural
Mm.
conditioning. Like for me, the simplest example is I'll happily go buy my son clothes because he needs them, but I'll just keep sewing up mine rather than go and buy myself something new because I actually need clothing too. But when it's your child, you don't even think about it. You just do it. Whereas, like you said, going through that journey, even with your daughter, it's like, hang on, I can get her support, but I need support too. I need to
Mm. Yeah,
fill up
yeah,
my cup as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I was creating this circle of support with her, for her, I would often think, gosh, I need a circle of support. I need a group of people and a facilitator that meets every regularly and checks in with how I'm going and, and knows all my goals and helps me work towards my goals. Like, I think on a spiritual level, we do have that circle of support for sure, but imagine having that in, I think we can create that here in the three-dimensional world too. And we need to, a very long time ago, a friend said to me, the mother must take the biggest piece of cake. Like it was maybe at one of the kids' birthday parties, but she would be like, this is the biggest piece of cake, that's for the mother, and take it first, And I don't know why, but that really stayed with me. And yeah, I often think about that. And I do. I kind of do that. I just saw you just interviewed someone with 19 children. I haven't listened to it yet, but
Me.
I've had
Yeah.
one child, and I feel like that was about as much as I could manage. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. The mind boggles my
Yeah.
mind.
I am a one and done mum as well. That's what I say, a one and done mum. But at the same time, I've worked with so many clients who have multiple children. I've worked with clients who have twins, who have had triplets, there's so many different facets of it. But it's what our soul chooses as well, right? We only take on what we believe we can handle. And as much as we like to think that we create our children, the souls still choose us, and the souls choose us
Mm,
because they know that
mm.
we're the best support for them or the lessons that they need to go through moving forward. And sometimes it's really nice to remember that. And if I just want to feel really humble and have gratitude, I actually say to my son, thank you for choosing me to be your mum. Because I am incredibly grateful because he's
Mhm.
this beautiful soul, as challenging as he can be. At the same time, it's really coming back to, there's something bigger going on there. And like you said, there's that spiritual support, but it's like, now how can we anchor it into the 3D? How can we create those support networks where people are uplifted by each other, but also so you have someone to go talk to? Because sometimes you just need to get it out, even if you just say
That's
it
right.
once, rather than bottling it up, bottling up, bottling it up. And
Yep.
I
Yep.
know there's been a lot of situations too where the mother sometimes stays and the dad leaves. I've had the opposite as well, where the mum leaves and the dad stays, and they need even more support because
Hmm.
they don't have someone to decompress with at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Navigating meltdowns, sensory behaviors, and all those fun things. It can be really challenging. I was a therapist. I found it incredibly challenging, but my job was to hold the calm and to be that support for the person and the parent.
Yes.
you know,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and whilst I couldn't put myself in their shoes, I could still empathize exactly like you said.
Yes, and a lot of these carers are separated or divorced. It's, obviously the divorce rate is just way higher among parents of neurodivergent children, probably parents of children with a disability in general. But yeah, it's puts a lot of strain on the relationship.
Yeah, it definitely 100%. And I would agree with those statistics. I think about my years, nearly 2 decades working with families. And there are a lot of parents who are single, divorced, or remarried. A lot, a lot. So it does put that strain. And I guess it takes a certain, I don't know, this is, I guess, where empathy comes in with your partners as well. And being open with communication and being able to communicate and express your wants and needs. Circling back to getting the children to tell the teachers what they need, and like that business person telling people you can't come in wearing, perfume. It's the same communication that needs to happen between partners as well.
Yep, yep. And then often the partners are neurodivergent, and everyone's just discovering this now and realizing, oh, this is why communication was so difficult, because, I realized he was neurodivergent, and so am I. And yeah, so I think this new generation's going to be a lot more sus about being able to express their
Yeah, 100%. And
advocating for themselves.
yeah, and I feel everyone needs to learn to express their needs, because how much simpler would it be in this world if you just went up to somebody and said, hey, I need X, Y, and Z, rather than, "Oh, maybe they'll figure it out. Or maybe they'll figure out
That's
that,
right.
you
That's
know,
right.
even when I used to go see my old chiropractor, my husband would remind me on the way up, don't forget to tell him about your shoulder. Because sometimes I just get in there and be like, oh yeah, work on me. And I was like, oh no, I have to tell him. Thank you for the reminder. Because sometimes we forget, even when we know we need this support, to say, actually, I really need help with this. And to have
Mm.
the courage to do that as well and recognize that and be problem aware, and then also solution seeking, rather than just staying in your story all the time.
Yep, yep, yep. And that's where my journey kind of started with nonviolent communication, which is if you had to summarize nonviolent communication, which was started by Marshall Rosenberg and is basically a way of being. Obviously, it includes how we express ourselves, but you could summarize it in 5 words. Who needs what when? So if you can answer that question for yourself, what do I need when, and the what needs to be quite specific, or who in my environment needs what and when. That's basically what it's all about. So needs and feelings. And I think it really appeals to I've got a theory that people who love NVC are mostly neurodivergent, because it gives them a framework and a structure to socialize, and where they don't necessarily know how to do that in neurotypical ways. For example, most autistic people are very honest. I
Yes, they are.
was brutally honest, and people are shocked offended and hurt when we are brutally honest. So for me, NVC helped me to find a way to be completely honest and authentic, but in a way that took other people's needs into account. So, they can be a very indignant, like, well, I have to be honest, like it's such a high value, so I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And yeah, other people can be hurt. So it's the double empathy problem where, yeah, both sides need to come towards each other in understanding and
Yeah.
compromising, expressing.
And I guess finding that balance that creates a win-win-win situation, right? Rather than someone has to win and someone has to lose, because that's really when your ego kicks in and it just is like, well, I'm right and you're wrong. Well, no, we need to find a middle ground. We need to find
Yep, yep,
somewhere
yep.
in the middle. Yeah.
So yeah, like a lot of autistic people, neurodivergent people don't like small talk. Not only don't, I mean, don't like is an understatement. They just can't do small talk. So will tend to be quite rude. Someone could take that as, being really rude, inconsiderate, disrespectful, all those things. So there's all this misinterpretation of behaviors, and that's where, yeah, curiosity is really, really vital. So yeah, I said hello. You seemed like you ignored me. Just wondering, did you hear me? Yes, I did. I just don't like small talk. So, or I'm just completely in my own world. I didn't see you. And yeah, it just helps us to understand each other so much better. And we're all have such a different communication style. So neurodiverse, we are all neurodiverse. I have no idea how another person's brain works. And like, this is what my daughter has taught me because she is such a mystery.
I'm laughing because the amount of times that I've had clients in the past and I would say, I just really want to know what's going on inside their head, because so often, even I had one of my clients that was my greatest teacher, I want to say, he had massive behavioral issues and he'd be laughing and happy and then would just snap and get really violent and start throwing everything in the room. And it happened at home, it happened at school, it happened in our sessions. And I actually got to this point where I was concerned for my safety. And I said, I actually can't see him for the moment. We need to work on this behavioral issue. And because the universe likes to send people, hey, this new psychologist has just dropped into the area. Do you want to go check them out? So she had what we needed and she brought in some ABA, but more just to help us understand the behavior. But what she said was he has an expectation of how the routine or the play is meant to go. And if it's not exactly how it's meant to go, that's what causes the meltdown, even though you can't understand that. So it was bringing him back into, okay, this is what's going to happen and really structuring it. But it got to the point where he was able to let that rigidity go and probably step out of that, that response as well, the triggering trauma response, where he felt safe again. And then it didn't matter as much. And then he became one of my favorite clients. But it's really interesting just to have that, that switch to flip. And then there's that shift in that behavior. But exactly how you were saying, it really comes down to understanding what the person needs are. Yeah.
And that's what I love about bringing carers together, because they will share, like, my child's doing this weird thing. And someone in the group will say, you know what? They probably need XYZ. They're doing it because of that. Just like that psychologist. I mean, to me, when you say that, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But you don't think it could be any number of things. You don't think, what's going on here? So that's one of the things that happens in the group, which is amazing and gives people so much insight.
As we finish our time together, Samantha, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Stop trying to fix your children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that will brings so much relief to parents who constantly thinking they have to do stuff to fix their children and to make things better. Accept them, acknowledge their strengths, celebrate their strengths, and change your focus to the strengths and to the positives.
Amen. 100%. And if people want to come find out more about your group, Samantha, or come and work for you, where's the best place that they can find all your details?
And if they are listening to this and they want a free download of like a cheat sheet for instant kind of nervous system regulation, calming tips, go to my website, samwittenberg.com.au, and sign up at the bottom and just say free download, and I will email that to them.
Beautiful.
It has just started raining. I mean, we've had bushfires, we've had the hottest, and there's just raindrops. And just after I said that, the rain just came on. I didn't even look like it was raining out there, but it just. And
Amazing.
The fires are still burning. So this is amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. I love that so much. Well, a big thank you for coming on the show, Samantha. Thank you. Exactly. A big thank you to the rain for showing up as well.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure to pop all your details in the show notes, and also a reminder to everyone listening on how to get that free download as well. So thank you, Samantha. It has been a really beautiful and insightful conversation.
Thank you, Catherine, for creating the space to help people in this way. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.